Over the last few months, I have fallen in love with Red Bull. And surprisingly, it's not because of how their drink tastes. It's the model they have used to build what is now considered an empire in the business space. And they've done this by learning how to own the attention of their customers rather than just renting it. So most people know the story of Red Bull and how it was taken from a Thai drink over to Austria and then commercialized for the European market. And it's a real nice story, and it gets replicated absolutely everywhere. Drinks like Red Bull, so you've got the Monsters, you've got Lucozade, caffeine, and a whole host of others. They're not unique anymore in what they do. They're 10 a penny. You walk into any high street shop, you'll be able to find a litany of them on the shelves. But what Red Bull was able to do is it was able to make them deeper than just a drink. It was able to create this culture and this brand and this lifestyle that no one else has been able to replicate at all. To really understand how radical it was for Red Bull, you've got to look at how these usual FMCG companies operate. And it's a pretty standard model. So, step one, they're going to find distribution. They want to get into as many retail shelves as possible. They want to be all over the place. They want to be seen by absolutely everyone, every customer that's possible. They're going to spend heavily on their advertising to drive customers into the shops and make sure that they pick their drink over the other ones. And then they're going to treat marketing as a department. They're going to bring in some brand ambassadors and, make sure they're on the trends of social media and get as many eyeballs on their drinks. That's the role of marketing. And that's how 99% of food and drink companies operated. However, Red Bull, and this is why I love them, they never did that in the traditional sense. They didn't rely on the retail alone, and they wanted to build that connection directly to the customer. So they didn't have a traditional advertising strategy. Now everyone knows the Red Bull gives you wings and the adverts that we've seen on TV, but that's not the main part of their media. And they decided very early on that they were going to stop renting the attention of people and own it instead. And this is where I think it becomes really, really interesting, because they took those events that people would pay millions of pounds to be in front of, and they went, well, rather than paying the millions of pounds, we're going to own it. And this is what they did. So they started to buy sports teams rather than just sponsoring them. And then they created their own events as well. So they launched events like Red Bull Rampage and Stratos, where they jumped from a meteor balloon high up on the Earth's atmosphere. And Felix Brunhammer, he skydived back down to Earth. And they invested heavily into this infrastructure, building the media house. So they owned every aspect of the event. They owned the media rights to it. They owned the filming, and they were able to really dictate to the media how their brand was presented. And it very quickly became much bigger ecosystem. So they weren't just a drinks company anymore. They were a lifestyle brand. And the drink was literally the entry ticket into the Red Bull world. And they had this world of media, events, culture, and community. And it was all reinforced by the brand story. It wasn't siloed into partnerships, acquisitions, content creations. It was all around this lifestyle positioning. And this consistency that they were able to do was impossible to confuse with another brand, and it almost impossible to copy. And because of this, they stopped selling just drinks and they started to sell the identity. People wanted to be associated with that community. By buying a Red Bull and drinking it, you were almost saying to other people, I like extreme sports, I like skydiving, I like mountain biking off the side of a cliff. And it touched every point of their community. So if we take Formula One as a brilliant example, rather than just supporting a team and sponsoring a team, which is tens of millions of pounds, what Red Bull did is they bought the Formula One team. This meant that they were broadcasting on every race across the season. It's one of the world's most watched sports, and people really get behind these teams. They did the same in football as well. So suddenly people weren't just thinking of them as a sponsor, they were shouting their name at the games and really becoming part of the team. They were loving the Red Bull team. And what this was able to do is take that community feel to a deeper level where they actually had an emotional connection of if the team won or lost. Now, that's something that brands can't buy, no matter how much sponsoring you do. To really get that emotional buy-in and that emotional love, you have to own it. And it's just something that they did fantastically well. So over time, they evolved beyond this energy drink, and their marketing, if you want to call it that, started to look more like a private equity firm than a drinks company. Now, I truly believe that actually Red Bull are a private equity firm masquerading as a drinks company, because they're able to own all these assets and they're able to generate revenue from all these assets. Rather than if you take the likes of Monster as a comparison, Monster only really generate income from their drinks and everything else is a sponsorship. Red Bull doesn't have that problem. They're able to own absolutely everything around them, and therefore they are always going to be extremely hard to copy because it needs significant upfront capital to start buying these teams and starting these events. And most companies will want that immediate return on investment, and they want to avoid the long-term bets if they can't guarantee it. Almost everything Red Bull has invested in, from the football teams to the Formula One team, they are all risky bets, and there is always a chance that they won't succeed. You look at how many football teams and Formula One teams go bankrupt within just a few years of new ownership. So the way we're applying this to the companies we own is we're looking at how can we start to own the assets of our marketing rather than just rent them, rather than just putting out adverts and press releases. How can we start to own it in the same or similar way that Red Bull has done? Because the truth is that if we can figure that out now, and we're able to build all these marketing assets instead of just buying them, everyone will still be talking about our brands in 10, 15, 20 years. So if you're serious about building that kind of business, connect with me on LinkedIn. Let's talk about how we can start owning attention of these marketing and sharing ideas together.